we're going to jump right into the presentation, and I want to introduce to you Kelly Whittick, who is the manager of the health plan of Wespath. Wespath, you may be more familiar with their former name, which was the General Board of Pension and Health Benefits of the United Methodist Church, which seemed like kind of a long name. And so now it is just Wespath. And Wespath for 30 years has run a health program for clergy and their families, sponsored by conferences. However, a year ago, they rolled out this HealthFlex Exchange that Kelly's going to talk about, and that your Board of Pensions has unanimously recommended for vote at annual conference. And so I'm so impressed that Kelly, the plan manager of the whole plan, has come down to present for us. There's well, I'm impressed.
Don't be that impressed.
And when you gather, as I did, her vast knowledge of the ins and outs of this program, you will be impressed. So let's give Kelly a warm Illinois Great Rivers welcome. It's all yours.
Is this microphone on and working? Can you all hear me all right? Well, thank you, Rick, and thanks to all of you for coming out on a Saturday morning. I'm sure there were other things that you could be doing today, and instead you're here talking about health benefits, which is very exciting stuff. But just a little bit of background about HealthFlex before we go into the details about HealthFlex Exchange and what's on the table potentially for you for 2018. So HealthFlex is a self-insured health plan. It's a group health plan fully under the purview of Wespath. It's been around since the 1990s. We currently have 27 annual conferences in HealthFlex, and probably maybe up to 3 more coming into HealthFlex for 2018. So we're growing, we're strong, it's very stable, and it takes a lot of the burden off of the annual conferences to potentially provide their own health plan when they have a lot of other things that are also very important ministries that compete with benefits for their time. So that's a little bit of background on HealthFlex. Like Rick said, HealthFlex Exchange is a new way of choosing benefits that Wespath put together in 2016 for the first time. We have 15 annual conferences in that right now. And so it's kind of, well, I'll actually advance this forward. What we put together for HealthFlex Exchange is a way to offer the high HealthFlex quality that we've been offering for the last several decades, but in a new platform that allows individuals to have more choice and flexibility with what they choose, or with the benefits they choose. So there's more options, more flexibility, more support. So whenever you have a lot of choices to make, it helps to have something to help you make that choice. And so we have the tools to help you make that choice. But we still have the partnership with really the top vendors for various medical and pharmacy and wellness programs in the country. We use national broad provider networks. We have strong wellness programs and incentives. And so this is what we'll be talking about this morning. So you all have been, or have at least had access to the Affordable Care Act's public exchange or public marketplace. It has a million different names. This is different. This is very different than the public marketplace or the public exchange. First of all, it's a group health plan. It's not individual plans. And on the public exchange, you choose individual plans. But this is a group plan that Illinois Great Rivers would be coming into. The networks are very broad. We use the National Blue Cross Network. You may know that, you probably know that in 2016, I think, Blue Cross pulled their broad network out of the public exchanges. So they only offer narrow networks in the public exchange plans, but we still use their very broad network. So all Blue Cross providers across the country are included in our network. We have the same premiums regardless of age, and that's because it's a group health plan. So a young person, 25, is going to pay the same amount per month as an individual, later in their career. And in the public marketplace, you can have up to 3 times difference. And clergy, our average age in HealthFlex is approximately 53, and I learned yesterday that in Illinois Great Rivers it's actually closer to 57. So you can imagine that the individuals on average in Illinois Great Rivers are not paying on the low side of that 1 to 3, that 3 to 1 ratio when it comes to the public exchange plan. So this will be the same rate for everybody in the plan. Another thing is that the conference currently offers a stipend, if you will, a healthcare stipend, but it's taxable. And because it's not a group health plan, there's no way for them to make that tax advantaged at this time. But the conference contribution to a HealthFlex plan, to your group health coverage, is tax advantaged, as well as anything that an individual pays toward it. So if you end up paying more premium toward it, that can also be tax advantaged and withheld from salary before tax. So that's a big difference than what you're currently having. And then we have a lot of comprehensive well-being programs and incentives. I have a whole set of slides at the end on those, and that's different than what you see in the public marketplace plans. Terms you need to know. I think health benefits is kind of like alphabet soup, so there are a lot of acronyms and things to think about. I do want to run through these just so I know that I've at least mentioned them, but if I say an acronym and even if it's one of these and you're like, wait, what was that? Can you tell me about that again? I'm happy to do that because I feel like I can stumble over these acronyms and I've been talking about them for years. So consumer-driven health plan, CDHP, that's a type of health plan which we'll talk about in a couple of slides. It is usually partnered with a health reimbursement account, which is one of our other acronyms. Co-insurance, that's when you pay a percentage of a bill from your provider and the plan pays a percentage. Often it works after you've met a deductible, which is one of the other words on there. So you meet that deductible, you are responsible for that full amount, and then the co-insurance kicks in and the plan pays a percentage and you pay a percentage. Co-payment, on the other hand, is usually it doesn't matter if you've met the deductible or not. And you have just a fixed amount that you pay for a service. And so in one of our plans, we have office visits that has co-payments. In a couple of our plans, we have medications that have co-payments. But that would be things that you pay before you've met the deductible. DC, or defined contribution, that might be something that you've heard on the retirement side where there's a defined contribution. Now we're going to use it on the health side where there's a fixed amount of money that the conference and church are paying towards your health benefits, and then you have some choices with what you want to do with that money. Deductible, I think we talked about. FSA, or sometimes it's called an MRA, flexible spending account or medical reimbursement account. Those are also tax advantaged accounts, so you can put money in there pre-tax as a salary deduction and use it to pay the medical ones. You can use to pay healthcare expenses that you incur out of pocket, like the co-payments and the co-insurance. We also have a dependent care account, which is also an FSA that I'll talk about. HDHP, high deductible health plan. It doesn't necessarily mean that the deductible is so much higher than other plans. What it means is that it's a qualified plan that the IRS allows you to put a health savings account with. So we have a few high deductible health plans, and those are paired with health savings accounts. HealthFlex, that's our group plan. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. HRA and HSA. I do have a slide that talks a little bit about the differences between those, but those are both tax advantaged accounts that you can put money in and save money in. They roll over from year to year with slightly different rules, but they are things that you can continue to use and kind of build up to save for healthcare expenses. And then PPO is a different type of plan, and it's preferred provider organization, and it has some different rules in terms of how it works. Any questions about the alphabet soup? No. Okay. So with HealthFlex Exchange, you'll have choice, and for those of you who are currently shopping in the public exchange market, there are way more choices there, and sometimes that's not a great thing. But so you still have a lot of choice under HealthFlex Exchange. There are 6 medical and pharmacy plans, 3 dental plans, and 3 vision plans, and so you can choose between those, and then you get that tax advantage defined contribution with which you can use to purchase. And maybe it covers all of it, maybe it covers part of it, but you have that fixed amount of money with which to shop for your various benefits. So there are a couple of ways you can think about plans. One is what kind of plan it is, and this is specific to the medical plans. One is what kind of plan it is, and they all work in slightly different ways. And then one is how generous it is, which means how much does it pay toward the benefit and how much do you pay. So when we look at the three types of plans that HealthFlex Exchange offers, there's the PPO, the CDHP, and the HDHP. The PPO plan has co-payments for office visits. So when you go to the doctor, you pay a fixed amount of money, and you don't have to have met your deductible. For some people, that's a good match. It also has a fixed co-payment for emergency room. There are other services, though, that still are subject to the deductible and co-insurance, like if you have to go to the hospital or if you need an outpatient service like an x-ray or some kind of a procedure. They also have co-payments for the generic medications and co-insurance for the brand name medications that you don't have to meet the deductible in order to pay, and that's what you pay. The consumer-driven health plans, those have a deductible that applies to all medical and behavioral health services. So you have to meet that deductible before the plan pays anything towards any medical service, any behavioral health service, including office visits and emergency room. But the medications, you don't have to meet the deductible. So if you, on January 1st, need a medication, you can go ahead and get that, and you don't have to have met your deductible. You all, if you picked up the handout that's stapled together, it actually walks through some of these differences as well as the plan details, but sometimes it doesn't hurt to hear it, which is why I'm going through it. So that's the way that the CDHP works. The other thing about the CDHP is it has the health reimbursement account attached to it. And both of our consumer-driven health plans have money that we pre-fund into a health reimbursement account to help you pay for out-of-pocket expenses. And you can decide what to do with that money. You can use it for the first bill that you get, you know, that you're like, you know, oh, I haven't met my deductible yet, I owe $500, I'm gonna use my health reimbursement account. Or you can say, hey, I can actually pay this $500, I can afford to pay it, so I'm gonna save my health reimbursement account for a later expense that maybe I will have more trouble paying for. So it's your choice, and that's why they call it consumer driven, is because you have more choice in how you spend your dollars. The HDHP is different in that the deductible applies to both medical and pharmacy expenses. So you have to pay that deductible before the plan pays anything. But because of that, that's why it qualifies for a health savings account, which is a very neat savings vehicle for health, and we'll talk about that in a few slides. And for 2 of our 3 high deductible plans, we put money in the health savings account for you to start the year. And then there's the three gold, silver, and bronze. And as a group that's been exposed to the public marketplace, you probably are familiar with that gold, silver, and bronze more than some other groups. But the gold plans are ones you pay more for up front and then you pay less out of pocket. They have lower deductibles, lower out-of-pocket maximums, and more generous co-insurance. The silver and bronze plans, you pay less month to month for them, but then if you do use services, you pay out more. And you know, it's all based, all the prices, the costs are based on your actual utilization as a conference. And so in the end, you know, it's really what works best for you. There's not a trick like, oh, you know, this plan is the best deal because, you know, you pay little and you get a lot. You pay for what you get, or you get what you pay for. And so you just need to decide what makes the most sense for you in terms of do you want to pay more up front and then potentially more out of pocket, or the other way around. So here are the 6 medical pharmacy plan options, and we make them little apples that are different colors just to signify, you know, which ones are gold, silver, and bronze. So for the gold plans, we have the PPO, a CDHP, and an HDHP. For the silver plans, they cost less, but they pay a little bit less. We have a CDHP and an HDHP, and then the bronze plan is just an HDHP. And that does not have money that we put into the health savings account, but you can still fund the health savings account. And some people choose to do that. They choose to pay less in premium, and then whatever they save, they put into that health savings account. Included in every plan, regardless of which plan you choose. First of all, you'll have the same vendor, so you'll still have Blue Cross, the same Blue Cross broad network. You'll have the same pharmacy networks. So all those things are the same regardless of which plan you choose. Every plan includes wellness and preventive care at 100%, no deductible required. Currently, that is required by the Affordable Care Act. Truthfully, HealthFlex was offering that before the Affordable Care Act offered it. So who knows what the future of the rules around the Affordable Care Act are, but I think that we can expect that wellness will continue to be covered by HealthFlex. All plans include medical, pharmacy, and behavioral health benefits. So you don't have to worry that if you pick one, oh, I didn't have pharmacy benefits in that one. They all have medical, pharmacy, and behavioral health. They all have an out-of-pocket maximum that includes all the medical, pharmacy, and behavioral health costs. So they all roll up to the same out-of-pocket maximum. So when you see that out-of-pocket maximum, you know that regardless of whether you're incurring expenses through medical or pharmacy or behavioral health provider, they're all going up to that same out-of-pocket maximum. It's an in-network out-of-pocket maximum, and there's a separate one for out-of-network. But with these broad networks, hopefully everybody has the ability to make a choice of seeing an in-network provider. They do all have out-of-network benefits though, so if you decided you wanted to see an out-of-network provider, that's always an option. For all the plans, you have a deductible that you have to meet before the plan pays for inpatient care or some of the outpatient services. None of the plans have lifetime maximums, and every single one of them has the same wellness programs and incentives. So you don't have to worry about like, oh wait, did this one not have the wellness? No, they all have the wellness. So there are a lot of things that are the same regardless, but it's how they pay for benefits and how much they cost that are the major differences. And then once you're in, they all function from a service level and everything very much the same. So let's talk a little bit about flexible spending accounts. So I mentioned that there are two types of flexible spending accounts. These are tax-advantaged accounts. So you can elect to have money withheld from your paycheck, and it's deducted by your salary paying unit, so your church or your conference office or wherever you happen to work. And then it's paid to the conference, and the conference pays it to Wespath, and then we use it to fund these accounts. These are both use it or lose it accounts. That's IRS rules. So if you don't use it in a given year, you lose the money. So that's different than the HRA or HSA, which rolls over. The medical FSA, we do allow a $500 rollover, and that's what the IRS allows. So if you have $500 left in that medical account at the end of the year, you can roll it over to the next year, even if you don't choose another election for the next year, even if you don't choose the FSA again. But in order to keep it for the next year, you do have to be enrolled in the plan for the next year. So you'd have to enroll in 19, and then if you had that left over, you could carry it into 19. And then you can make the next election, and so you can have that second year, you could have up to $3,100 in there because you have $500 from the first year plus your full $2,600 from the second year. It's fully funded at the beginning of the year. So you'll pay for it over the course of the whole year, but we make it available to you on January 1st. So if you have a big expense and you know you're going to have a big expense, it's a great idea to set aside the money, first because of the tax advantage, and second because it's right there for you, and then you can kind of pay it over the course of the year. You pay the account over the course of the year, but you get to spend it up front. The dependent care account is not for dependents' medical care, but it's for child care expenses, or in some cases it can be used for adult care expenses if you have a dependent adult who is under your care. So it's for kids, it's kids up to 12. There's no rollover or carryover allowed. That has a $5,000 limit, and that is available as it accrues. So as you have money withheld every month, 1/12 is deposited in there, and then you can spend it to pay back daycare, preschool, et cetera, expenses. The other health accounts are the health reimbursement accounts and the health savings accounts. So these are both accounts that money can roll over from year to year, but in slightly different ways. The health savings account is a true bank account. It's your money, it's portable. If you were to waive the plan in the future or leave the church, you would keep that with you. If you pass away, you can pass that on to your heirs. The health reimbursement account ultimately belongs back to the plan, but it's yours to spend as long as you are in the plan or affiliated with the United Methodist Church. So if you become ineligible for benefits, but you haven't left the church, then you can keep it. But if you waive coverage or you leave the United Methodist Church, then there's a spend down period to use as much as you can of the funds. And our goal is for you to use the funds, because that's the whole point of the consumer-driven plans, is to have these funds there to kind of save for when you really need them and be able to make those good decisions in terms of how to use healthcare. You can see that 4 of the plans, they have money that's pre-funded into those accounts, and that is spelled out on that stapled sheet that you have how much. The money that we put in the accounts is available in January. And that's included in the premium, so you don't have to worry about extra. The conference doesn't have to pay extra for that. That's all included in the premiums. in the HSA, you are allowed to also contribute to that, and that's on a tax advantage basis. That money isn't available in January, it's available as you put it in. You also have dental and vision plan choices. You don't have to elect dental and vision. You can just elect a medical plan and waive dental and vision. You cannot just elect dental and vision, though. You have to choose a medical plan. You also have to cover the same people in the medical and dental and vision plan. So you can't say, oh, I'm just going to cover myself in medical, but I'm going to have family coverage in dental. It has to be the same people in all of the plans. But there's 3 different types of dental plans. 2 of them are called passive PPOs, and what that means is they have the same benefit level regardless of whether your dentist is in the network or not. We use Cigna for dental, and it's the Cigna Dental Advantage PPO network. And so if you don't have a dentist that is near you or that you like that's in the Advantage network, then a passive PPO might be a good choice because you have that same benefit. But if you do have a dentist in the PPO network, or if you don't currently go to the dentist, or you're looking for a new dentist and you're willing to go to one in the Cigna Advantage network, then the PPO plan actually offers a greater benefit for seeing an in-network provider. And both of those, actually all 3 of the plans have what's called a dental wellness benefit, and so there's an annual limit on how much the dental plan covers, but if you get checkups, then the next year that annual limit goes up by $150, and then the next year it goes up by another $150, and the next year up another $150. It doesn't go on forever. It's a maximum of $450 more, but if you do get your preventive stuff and then someday down the road you need something that's more significant, it's nice to have built up that extra. And then we have 3 vision plans. The exam-only plan, we don't charge you extra for. So if you choose a medical plan, it's 0 cost to you. You're welcome to waive it if you want, but at 0 cost, it's probably worth taking. It has exams covered at a $20 copay. And then we have 2 other plans that have financial benefits towards glasses and contacts at different levels. So depending on what your needs are, that you have those options as well. And that's VSP is the provider we use for vision. The defined contribution is that fixed amount of money that is provided by the conference/church. I'm going to call it conference/church because depending on who you work for, or how many points in your charge, it may be funded in a different way for each one of you. But basically, that's the amount that the church contributes towards your insurance, and it's that fixed amount that then is used to offset the total cost of the premiums. So you have your 6 medical, your 3 dental, your 3 vision plans to choose from. Some of them cost more, some of them cost less. And then you go shopping with that fixed amount. And if you choose plans that cost more than that fixed amount, then you're responsible for the extra. And that can be withheld from your paycheck on a pre-tax basis. So that's a tax advantage. But if you have some left over, if you choose plans that cost less than the defined contribution, then you don't lose that extra defined contribution. We roll it into either an HRA or an HSA for you. So there's potentially a financial incentive, if you will, to at least look at those less costly plans because potentially there could be some left over for an HRA or an HSA, which might be the way that you are comfortable paying for healthcare. So this is the example. So Pastor John and Pastor Judy, they both get $600 a month. These are very general numbers because sometimes it's easier to do very general math when you're talking in front of people. So let's say they both get $600 a month. Pastor John chooses various plans that add up to $700 a month. So he owes an extra $100, and so that is withheld from his salary, and it's taken on a pre-tax basis, and he pays it to the church pays it to the conference pays it to Wespath. Pastor Judy, on the other hand, chooses plans that cost $500 a month, so she's got this extra $100, and that's then deposited into the health reimbursement or the health savings account for her. Any questions about how that works?
Is that only if it's a plan that allows for health savings?
So it's a health reimbursement or a health savings depending on which plan you choose. So if you don't choose a plan that's a high deductible plan, it would be a health reimbursement account. So we know based on what plan you choose what kind of account we can put it in. So how do you choose? There are a lot of you have had choice in the last couple of years, so you have already maybe considered some of these factors in terms of how you choose a plan. But basically, we encourage you to think about how many people you're covering, because your defined contribution may go further in a lower cost plan if you're covering more people. So just something to think about. How much healthcare you expect to use. If you expect to use a lot, you want to take that into consideration. If you're not expecting a lot, you want to take that into consideration. The financial risk tolerance and preparedness is important because if in the United States, most people overinsure on a lot of things. We overinsure our cars, we overinsure our houses because we're like, I'd rather pay this amount monthly to know that if something happens, I don't have something big out of pocket. What it can mean, though, is that we pay a lot of money over time that we never actually reap the benefit from. So it's something to consider. Are you willing to take a little bit of a financial risk, pay less each month, and then just know that if something does happen that you're not expecting, you will potentially have to pay more out of pocket. But remember, all of the plans have a cap on how much you could have to pay out of pocket for in-network providers. And then proximity to Medicare eligibility. That's important because if you are enrolled in Medicare, and that's even if you're just enrolled in Medicare Part A, you're not eligible to contribute to a health savings account. So you want to think about that if you're going to be enrolled in Medicare at some point during the year. You may not want to choose one of the high deductible plans because you may have to waive the health savings account. So just something to think about. And we actually have a handout, which I'll get to Rick, that talks about some of the more detailed facts about Medicare eligibility and health savings accounts. We don't give it out to everybody because it's information that some people don't need, but if you need that, reach out to Rick and I'll make sure that he has it. So we also have some tools to help you make those decisions, and those would be available in the fall time frame. So one of them is Alex Benefits Counselor. It's a Jelly Vision product, and it's kind of it kind of feels like it's an online tool, and it feels like somebody's walking you through your benefit choices, right? So they're like, oh, how many people are you going to cover? How many times are you going to go to the doctor? How many medications do you take? And it's very user friendly. And then what it does is it takes all that information. It says, okay, here are your 6 plans, and here's about how much we think that you would spend, total on each plan, premium plus out of pocket, based on what you told us. And hey, worst case scenario would look like this. So it would actually give you a very individualized look at how your utilization would shake out under the different plans. It makes the process a lot easier. We also have My Choice, which is a questionnaire that talks a little bit about like your financial risk tolerance and things like that, your financial safety net. And that is in November. It's available during the annual election process. Just to review, I mentioned we use Blue Cross Blue Shield for medical, and so that you would have a Blue Cross Blue Shield card that has the little suitcase on it that says PPO, and that means that you can use any Blue Cross PPO provider in the country. For behavioral health, we use United Behavioral Health. They actually do our employee assistance program as well as our behavioral health benefits. So for our employee assistance program, we have 8 free visits in person or by phone, whichever you prefer, that per issue per person. So if you start out with an EAP provider, the first 8 visits you don't pay a dime, and then if you need more visits beyond the 8, it kicks right into the behavioral health benefit. So you're already with an in-network provider. For pharmacy, we use OptumRx. So they have a very broad pharmacy network for retail. So if those 30-day medications like antibiotics or pain medications or things that you just fill every once in a while, those can be done at almost any of the major chain pharmacies as well as a number of independent pharmacies. They have a very broad network. For maintenance medications, so those are medications you take every day and that you will take every day for the foreseeable future, we ask that you get those in a 90-day supply, and you can either get those through the home delivery pharmacy or at a Walgreens pharmacy. So some people prefer to have those delivered. It means you don't have to go to the pharmacy all the time. Some people prefer to go to a local pharmacy. Actually, starting this year, we offered both. It is just Walgreens because one of the reasons that you do a 90-day thing like this is because you're able to negotiate lower prices for drugs that you know that people are going to take over and over and over. And so in order to get those negotiated lower prices at a retail pharmacy, we had to pick one. And so Walgreens it is. And there's pretty good access to Walgreens pharmacies. We use Cigna for the dental network and VSP for vision. The ID card that you get for HealthFlex, it has the medical and pharmacy information on it. And then for UBH, you don't need a card. You just give them your information and they call for verification. You can print a dental card if you want it, but you don't have to have a dental card. And then for VSP, you also don't need a card. And then WageWorks does our health account. So they do our FSAs, HRAs, and HSAs. They have a little debit card that you can use to kind of swipe instead of having to pay first and be reimbursed, which is nice if you have funds at the time. And it's also a smart card. So if you have multiple accounts, like if you have an FSA and an HRA, then it knows to take it from the FSA first. Because the FSA is use it or lose it. You don't want to pay out everything from your HRA and then lose your FSA. So it pays from your FSA first and then your HRA. If you're in a health savings account, there are rules that say you can't have an FSA that pays first until you've hit a certain level of claims. And so it's smart. It says if it's a dental or vision expense, it has the FSA pay first because it's allowed to do that. If it's a medical expense, it has the HSA pay first. And then once you've met that threshold of claims, you notify WageWorks, and then they switch it around, and then the FSA pays first and the HSA pays second. So like I said, the card is smart, which makes your job a lot easier because you just have to swipe it. You can also submit claims for reimbursement if you want to pay on your own and be reimbursed. And it's very easy to submit for reimbursement. You can either do it via the smartphone app and just take a picture of the receipt and send it, or you can do it online or fax it or by mail, whatever is the easiest way for you. We also have a website that's really like like the one-stop shop. It's not actually integrated yet with the benefits access that you use for retirement, but this is probably a site that you would visit more regularly than you visit your retirement account site. You're only supposed to look at those like once every quarter, otherwise it can drive you crazy. But the health site you are supposed to look at much more regularly, and this has tools that link you out to other vendors. So it links you out to Blue Cross, it links you out to OptumRx, and a lot of them it links out without an additional password. So you can just hit the button and go right into your Blue Cross account and see all your claims. Hit the button and go right into your OptumRx account and see all your claims. And so that we were able to set up like the secure handshake, if you will, between those two sites so that you can just have a little bit easier experience accessing everything. It's also where your decision support tools will be. It's also where you would go to make your elections during November. There are also links to various wellness programs and incentive information, as well as the detailed benefits. There are much more detailed benefits booklets if you like to read that kind of detail. And some people need to read that kind of detail. We also have the health team. There are 5 people on our customer service department who are dedicated only to answering questions related to HealthFlex. And they're amazing. They are really they are the kind of the life of HealthFlex, because if you have a problem, they will get on the phone with you and get on the phone with the vendor or the doctor, whoever you need to get on the phone with to help work out the issue. And they have the knowledge and the connection right to the vendor to help resolve issues that require a little bit of extra hand-holding to resolve. So let's talk a little bit about well-being. Well-being has always been a huge part of HealthFlex, kind of long before it was popular or trendy or anything like that. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, we talked about that the average age of the employees in our plan is over 52. And so in order to keep costs as stable as possible over time, it is in our interest to help people find ways to stay healthy. Secondarily, and personally, I think at least as important, if not more important, clergy and the lay workers who serve the church are the lifeblood of the church. We are an agency that exists to serve the church. So it is in the interest of the church to keep you all healthy and help you keep yourselves healthy, because that's how the church stays vital. So those two things together, the need to keep the church healthy and the need to keep the plan financially healthy, are the reasons that we've always had wellness in the HealthFlex plan. We try to use these 5 dimensions of well-being to really make sure that we're having a broad approach to well-being, so physical, emotional, spiritual, social, and financial, and we have little bits and pieces that address each of those. On the physical side, we have Virgin Pulse, and I think you guys are familiar with that. That's included with the incentives that come with that. We also have Blueprint for Wellness, which is a blood screening that Quest Diagnostics offers. We offer an incentive for that. So it's a very comprehensive screening. You can take it once a year, potentially at annual conference, that you could have an event at annual conference where you could get the screening, or you can go to local Quest laboratories. So that's one of the programs. We have an online health assessment that kind of just allows you to have answer some questions, enter some information. It's all highly confidential and private. Nobody within Wespath, or certainly no one within the conference, is going through and looking at anybody's answers, but it helps you get a pulse on your overall well-being, and at a population level, it helps us determine if we're doing our jobs to help keep our population as healthy as possible. We have health coaching. We have a relationship with a company called eVive that allows us to do reminders for preventive screenings like cholesterol checks and mammograms and colonoscopies and fun stuff like that. On the emotional side, we have the employee assistance program. I think I referenced that before. So 8 visits per person per issue at no cost, and then it rolls right into behavioral health benefit. We also have a work-life program through this, and so this program addresses those pesky things in life that kind of get in the way of your focus, and they cause a lot of stress, and they potentially prevent you from doing your most productive work. And so it's maybe things like when you move to a new community, not really knowing where the best place to take your dog for veterinary care, and you could spend time researching, and sometimes you can go to a phone book and get or the internet or whatever and get 50 responses, but UBH in their work-life program, they kind of filter those down for you. I actually used it when my mother-in-law needed continuing care. She had ALS, and so we needed to find a service for her, a place for her to stay that could take care of her, and it was overwhelming, and they gave me this beautiful packet of numbers to call and a ton of details about each place, and my stress level just plummeted because I felt like I had the next step. I didn't have to do that first step. So I think it's a great service. I've used it personally, and for clergy that are being reappointed, I feel like there's a huge advantage when you move to a new area to have somebody to potentially help you sort through your new community. On the spiritual side, we are growing in this area. We actually have a United Methodist clergy person on our well-being team, and so she's pushing us to really expand in this area. This is not something you see in non-church wellness plans, so it's pretty awesome. But we've started by doing some more spiritually focused challenges in Virgin Pulse, to try to find ways to reward you for taking time for your own spiritual well-being. Since you spend a lot of time helping others with their spiritual well-being, we want to make sure that we encourage yours as well. On the social side, we have the challenges through Virgin Pulse. We also have a partnership with Weight Watchers for those who want to do the Weight Watchers in their community. So HealthFlex will actually pay for half of Weight Watchers, and then you pay the other half, and it's actually a discounted rate at that. So those are some ways that we try to leverage the social aspect of well-being. And then from a financial side, we do a little bit of incentivizing for participating in EY on the financial planning side. So that's a benefit that you get through your retirement benefit, but we will highly encourage you to use it. And then there are also wellness incentives. So these are based on the 2017 incentives, but there's up to $410, it's per individual, so participant and spouse potentially, if they're both enrolled, can earn it. So that's $800 extra dollars. Right now we offer it as cash through Virgin Pulse. In the future it may be into your HRA or into your HSA. But the idea is if you're doing healthy things, then we will try to reward you for those things. And then November is when the annual election period is, so that's the first 2 weeks of November. You go in and you make an election. It's easiest for you, I think, and it's the best experience for you if you make it online. But if you can't make it online, we do have other ways for you to make your election. And then you get your ID cards, and then it's January, and then we are in a whole nother year, and that happens in the blink of an eye. We put together HealthFlex Exchange as a way to provide a platform that allows the church to provide more sustainable benefits over a longer time. I know that before you all terminated your health plan, it was becoming financially unsustainable for the conference. HealthFlex works very hard to maintain a stable plan that's good financial stewardship for churches and for conferences, because we know that a church, local churches can't just afford to have a 20% increase in a year, and neither can pastors for that matter. So we work really hard. There's no guarantee that costs don't go up, but we've been able to keep costs very stable over time. We have a big pool that we work with. I mentioned that we have 27 annual conferences right now, plus 3 non-conference employers. It means that we have more purchasing power, so we can get medications at lower prices, and we can get administrative services at lower prices than the conference can do on their own. So our goal is to provide a plan that serves you and that helps you to be your healthiest and to take care of you when you're not your healthiest. So that is all I have formally. I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have. If you do have any personal questions, save them and come on up after the group, and I'm happy to try to troubleshoot those as well. Thank you.
And so it's my turn, and I'm going to get a little preachy, but that's okay because I have a license to preach. And I wanted to talk about, how do we get here? Why are we here? You might remember in 2014, when we decided to terminate the conference health plan, that there was a lot of optimism surrounding the Affordable Care Act. There was a really rough rollout, and we all remember the online issues that they had, online signups, but by January they had got that worked out. And so when the Conference Board of Pensions recommended in March to terminate the health plan, the Affordable Care Act was only 3 months old. But things were beginning to run a little more smoothly, and by the time the conference voted on it, the vote was overwhelming to terminate the conference health plan and go to the marketplace. I mentioned the optimism. At that point, the feeling was that there would be more and more people enrolling, that they would reach critical mass of the people that need to make the plan go, that more insurers would join as they became familiar with the system, that there would be more choices, and that rates would go down. Well, that's not what turned out. And what really happened was that there were not enough young, healthy people who signed up for the plan in order to make the plans profitable. And so as the plans were not profitable, the insurance companies began to raise rates and bail out, and so we have what we have today. I like to say, in a sense, the same thing happened to the Affordable Care Act that happened to our self-insured plan. Do not mean this disparagingly. There were too many old, sick people in our health plan, and clergy families are not good at taking care of themselves. I don't know whether you want this information or not, but when mammograms became free in our self-insured plan, only 1/3 of women got them. We need to work harder at taking care of ourselves, and one advantage of this plan are the wellness benefits, and that there are true incentives built in to take care of yourselves, and you will be reminded. So, we didn't intend to be here. When I made the round of information sessions 3 years ago, I kind of hoped I'd never have to do it again. That was not the intent. And we are here because of what happened to the Affordable Care Act. Premium increases in Illinois averaged 40% last year. In some areas, particularly the Metro East, the increases were on the average of 100%. In the Metro East, there's only one provider. In fact, in most Illinois counties, there's now only one provider. In the Metro East, there are only 12 plans available, and they're all terrible. Guess where we have our highest concentration of pastors? In the Metro East. And so it's just not worked out very well for us. We have heard stories, anecdotal, yes, but stories of people being $30,000 out of pocket last year and probably this year. For somebody who's 60 or 62 years old, they may be damaged financially for life because they don't have enough time to make that up. We have heard anecdotally of premiums that are over $25,000. All that is taxable. And the tax issues have been more of a killer for many of our pastors than the health insurance. We have heard of people not signing up for health insurance because they didn't feel like they could afford it. Many of our folks have signed up for the Christian health sharing accounts, those sorts of things. I know they look wonderful, but I hope nobody gets burned on one of those because it can happen. We're here because we have brothers and sisters who are hurting, and hurting badly. Now, several of our pastors have found workarounds for this. If they're fortunate to have a spouse who has employer insurance, or retired military on TRICARE, or folks that are Medicare eligible and still working, they're doing fine. They're doing just great. They don't want to see this change. But for many others who do not have the privilege of having access to other insurance, this has been very, very difficult. That was not our intent, but it's what happened. So it was very disappointing for me, and I don't see any here, but it was very disappointing for me. As soon as we announced this proposal, I got emails and there were posts on Facebook. This is not good for me. I'm not going to vote for it. Somehow we have to rise above that. And to change our focus from what's good for me to what's good for the body. What's good for the body of Christ. Your Board of Pensions has unanimously recommended moving to this plan. Now, I want you to know that I know the health insurance situation of our Board of Pensions, the clergy members of our Board of Pensions. And there is only one clergy member on the Board of Pensions that will be advantaged in this plan. The rest of them will all pay more. And yet they were willing to cast aside their personal interest to vote for what they feel is the good of the whole. And that's what we need to think about and pray about as we make the decision going forward as a conference. Is this the answer? Well, I think so. But 3 years ago, I thought the marketplace was the answer. The health insurance situation is so volatile. And I am thankful that our Board of Pensions was nimble enough to say, this is going sour and we got to react to it. And so that's where we are. Vote for your conscience, but I hope that when you vote, you will vote for the good of the body. The question was, will there be an annual review of the defined contribution amount if this plan passes? And yeah, I think we'll look at it every year, but $1,100 will fund the pastor's portion of all the current plans. And if they increase at an average of 3% per year, is what they've been increasing at, then that will carry us for 7 years. And so it might not need to be increased in order to fund the pastor part. I'd like to say a word about the dependent charge. And it's high. And I had a testimony that it's high. Part of that is because of uncertainty. When the actuaries look at our group, they don't know how many spouses are going to enroll. They don't know what kind of health they're going to be in. And they don't know what the claims history is going to be. Now, they pretty well know the pastors because they have the data on the pastors. But not the spouses. And so, what happens when actuaries are uncertain? So, if we have a good number of spouses and children enroll, if the claims history is good, 2-3 years out, I expect to see these rates may moderate. We'll just have to wait and see. Thank you for coming, and have a good Saturday. Go in peace.